President Trump has finally done something he has been wanting to do since his first term. He signed an executive order today stripping some 8,000 high-ranking federal employees of their job protections.
It's a big one. Okay, thank you.
Across the government, division heads, program managers, those overseeing spending and grants, and many others now serve at the pleasure of the president. NPR's Andrea Hsu explains why the change is so significant.
Federal employees have long enjoyed job protections far stronger than what most American workers have. Setting aside political appointees who make up a small fraction of the workforce, they can only be fired for good reason, like they're failing at their job or they've done something illegal. Michael Martinez says that's by design because it's mission-driven work.
That's really for the American people so that when they hear labor statistics or weather patterns, they can actually trust their government.
Martinez used to be Deputy General Counsel in the Office of Personnel Management. He's now part of the legal team at Democracy Forward. They have sued the Trump administration over what they say is an attempt to unlawfully dismantle the nonpartisan civil service. It wasn't always this way. Government jobs were once just handed out to the president's friends and supporters. That led to corruption and incompetence. Then in 1881, a disgruntled and mentally ill job seeker shot and killed President James Garfield, and things began to change. Over time, Congress passed laws to insulate government workers from political interference, and Martinez says to preserve expertise.
You really want someone to handle your IRS returns, to fight your wildfires, and to give you Social Security benefits that has the expertise to do it.
On a press call today, Office of Personnel Management Director Scott Cooper said this is not a return to the political patronage system. There won't be any loyalty tests, he said.
Look, from our perspective, this is very much about accountability. It's also about a restoration, in our mind, of the democratic process.
He explained the president is elected by the people, and so career employees overseeing government policy must be willing to follow the president's orders.
It doesn't matter what your political views are. You can have any political views, but if you allow those views to basically interfere with your willingness to actually carry out lawful orders and policy directives of the administration, then this provides a mechanism, obviously, for people in those agencies to be able to be removed effectively at will.
On his blog, Cooper goes further and says the government is inefficient because it does not march to the tune of a single drummer, the president. Don Moynihan, a professor of public policy at the University of Michigan, says that's not what the research shows. Studies have found the more politicized the government, the less effective it is, because that kind of climate scares away experts.
One of the great recruiting advantages that the public sector has historically is to be able to tell very talented people, come work with us and your work will make a difference. But if your inputs and work are just being ignored, that's a much harder sales pitch to make to potential employees.
There are already multiple lawsuits challenging the Trump administration's rule that created the new category of at-will employees. Moynihan says pretty much everyone expects the issue to end up before the Supreme Court.
This is a swing for the fences moment on the part of the administration where they look at this Supreme Court and think, this is the most friendly court that we are going to get on this topic.
The Office of Personnel Management received 40,000 public comments on the rule, 94% of which were opposed. Passages in the rule itself claim no one's going to be fired simply because they disagree with the president. But given the large number of civil servants ousted last year, including Justice Department attorneys who investigated Trump, Moynihan isn't so sure.
I think you can look at the first year of the Trump administration and then weigh how credible that denial actually is.
Now it's something for the courts to weigh as the lawsuits play out. Andrea Hsu, NPR News, Washington.
What is everybody in Europe worried about now? Why genetic annihilation? All these people from Syria coming up in here.
Farmers, landscapers, and the hospitality industry have long complained that the U.S. government doesn't issue enough guest worker visas to meet seasonal labor needs. Now, a niche industry in Louisiana has been nearly shut out of the federal program it uses for migrant workers. And it's upended crawfish season. NPR's Debbie Elliott reports.
Alan Lawson checks on his crawfish pond in Crowley, Louisiana, meeting the boat as it pulls ashore with the morning's catch.
Does it work? A bit slower, but it's good. More time.
The farm is testing out a new harvesting system that separates the crawfish by size right on the boat.
This would be what's considered a peeler size, okay? And the ones in the purple sacks are a little bit bigger.
The squirmy, deep red crustaceans are a springtime delicacy around here. The bigger ones in the purple sack are bound for the live market.
So, those are crawfish that are going to get boiled, and people put in, all kind of stuff in the pot with them, and they dump them on the table, and that's the ones you want to eat.
The suck the head, eat the tail variety. It's the smaller crawfish that are caught up in a labor shortage this year. They're typically bound for processing plants, where migrants on seasonal H-2B guest worker visas peel the crawfish and pick out the tail meat. That's what's shipped to groceries and restaurants and used for dishes like crawfish étouffée. But Lawson says a late-season rule change by the U.S. Departments of Labor and Homeland Security cut crawfish processors out. So his plant doesn't have the staff he usually hires from December through June to peel and pack crawfish.
We've tried hiring temp workers, local workers. We have had very little success. Local workers don't want these jobs. First of all, they're seasonal. American citizens, they need 12-month jobs. They don't need 6-month jobs.
It's left the industry in a lurch.
For many of our crawfish processors, the season is basically for them is over.
Louisiana Agriculture Commissioner Mike Strain.
What the bottom line, what this means is a economic loss to our crawfish farmers and processors in excess of $100 million. The cost to Louisiana's economy in excess of $300 million.
According to the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, 15 of the state's 20 crawfish processors were completely left out of the guest worker program they use. Andy Brown, Director of Commodities and Public Policy for the Bureau, says changing the rules midstream has created significant uncertainty and left crawfish farmers with nowhere to sell their catch.
All these folks try to do things legally. They try to hire, through legal processes, pay reasonable wages, and then just to change the rules to make it more difficult to adhere to has been frustrating.
In a statement, a U.S. Department of Labor spokeswoman said the agency realizes the importance of the crawfish industry to the American economy and is, quote, looking to identify workable solutions. Brown says this industry and others have long pushed for reforms in the guest worker program, but can't get any traction in Congress. He says public perception doesn't help.
If you post this story, there will be way more comments of the uninformed public that think this is stealing an American's job, or some other uninformed, public keyboard cowboy that thinks he understands what it takes to get crawfish from the field to his plate. That public misconception is rampant.
The Bureau and the industry would like to see crawfish processors moved out of the capped H-2B program and into an open-ended agricultural worker system. Democratic Congressman Cleo Fields of Baton Rouge says he's heard from crawfish farmers in his district and would support the change, but doesn't think there's appetite in the Republican majority Congress. Fields says the Trump administration's hard line on immigration doesn't help.
I think this administration has put landmines in the way of moving this process forward. And it was only to keep the immigrant worker out.
Trump's Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, has said the solution lies with Congress to permanently raise the cap on H-2B visas. So with things stalled in Washington, crawfish plants are trying to salvage what they can of the season. At Alan Lawson's operation in Crowley, Louisiana, several women are hunched over a stainless steel table picking crawfish meat. It's a tiny fraction of the 125 migrants who would typically be working during peak crawfish season.
I am worried.
That's Lorena Aguilar, who manages the peeling room. She says she hasn't had enough workers to keep up with orders this year, and the ones who come back here year after year have found jobs elsewhere now.
If we're going to be needing people next season, I don't know what we're going to do. How we're going to get them back. That's a problem. I mean, They don't let the legal people to come back to work. That's a problem.
Lawson says it's frustrating that people trying to work here through legal means are being caught up in the current sentiment.
I don't know if it's the misconception that these guest workers are bad people. They come here to work. They go to work. They do the jobs. They produce revenue for these American companies. I don't really know how or why this has gotten such a black eye.
With all the talk of using tariffs to restore domestic manufacturing, Lawson says, this does the opposite. If Louisiana can't produce, imported crawfish will flood the market, and he says no one is listening.
We have politicians that are in Washington, and I'm not going to name any names. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but they're so disconnected from what's happening in rural America.
Lawson says he's lost confidence in the ability of elected officials to solve this crawfish worker shortage. Debbie Elliott, NPR News, Crowley, Louisiana.
Forget LinkedIn. Gen Z is now turning to Instagram, TikTok, and even dating apps to land a job. You heard that right. Young job seekers across the UK and the United States are reportedly using viral videos, memes, personal slide decks, and cold DMs to try and land a job. Why? Because Gen Z is focusing on one of the toughest job markets. It's facing one of the toughest job markets since the pandemic, and the traditional form of job applications no longer working for them. Vacancies are falling, unemployment is rising, and competition for every single opening is intensifying. According to LinkedIn data, global hiring rate has fallen to a 5-year low, as the number of applications per job has jumped by nearly 30%. Many young job seekers say the traditional application process feels broken, with companies now using AI to filter resumes, automate screening, and even conduct initial interviews. Many applicants say they feel like they are applying into the void. Some Gen Z job seekers in the U.S. say they've sent out hundreds, even thousands of applications without landing a single offer. Part of the problem is that many companies now lean heavily on AI to filter resumes, screen candidates, and even conduct mass interviews. Imagine what that does to a young job seeker's confidence. The stress, the self-doubt, the constant feeling of rejection without even hearing back. But that is the reality of job markets right now. So as a result, many young graduates are turning to social media to try and stand out. Many are using quirky videos, cold emails, even memes to reach top executives directly. TikTok and Instagram Reels have become an extension of their resumes. And in their view, why shouldn't it be? This is a generation that grew up online. They know they have to use every tool available to get noticed. And the job market isn't fair. Take this 22-year-old student from Dartmouth College, spent months applying for jobs. She reportedly sent out more than 300 applications, carefully tweaking every resume, every cover letter, every single role, and yet not one company responded. No interview, no call back, not even a rejection email. So one day she decided to try something different. She filmed a 94-second Instagram video and added self-deprecating humor. And guess what? That video went viral, crossing 500,000 views. And suddenly, the same person who could not get a response from companies, not a single response, was getting attention from everywhere. 20 referrals, 10 interviews, and also a full-time job offer. Another young job seeker in London took a similar approach. In a post, she calls herself really hot, really talented, and really funny, and sent it directly to top executives. She too reportedly ended up landing a better job. So now they are treating the job search more like social media marketing than a traditional hiring process. TikToks are becoming video resumes. Instagram is becoming the new LinkedIn. And according to one survey, nearly 1/3 of dating app users say they have used the platform for professional networking. But it's not all rosy. Recent analysis shows 72% of job seekers say the hunt for work has negatively impacted their mental health. 2/3 say they feel burdened out before they even get hired. They feel burnt out before they even get hired. And experts warn that going viral does not guarantee employment. So the video may get attention, it may get you an interview, but it of course cannot replace qualifications, experience or a strong application. Because in today's job market, standing out is no longer optional. It has become part of the job itself. And that may be the real irony of the modern job market. Before you even get the job, you first have to go viral.
Everyone assumed AI was the reason recent graduates were struggling to find work. Turns out that might not be the whole story. Researchers at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York published a study. It suggests that remote work, not artificial intelligence, is the bigger driver behind rising unemployment, especially among young college graduates. The numbers are worth sitting with for a second. In March 2019, unemployment among recent graduates was running at about 3.6%. By March 2026, it had hit 5.6%. According to the researchers, remote work could account for nearly 64% of that jump. The study focused specifically on jobs that can be done from home: software development, finance, and that whole category of white-collar work. Researchers compared those roles against jobs that require physical presence, things like nursing or, oddly enough, funeral home management. What they found was that between 2017 to 2019 and 2022 to 2024, unemployment among young graduates in remote eligible jobs climbed by roughly a percentage point. Older workers in the same fields, people 29 and up, actually saw unemployment tick down slightly over that same window. Occupations that could not easily go remote showed almost no gap between younger and older workers. The pattern held for people without degrees too. So what's actually happening? Researchers combined labor market data with records from an unnamed Fortune 500 tech company. When that company's offices were closed and everyone shifted to remote, it started hiring fewer entry-level workers and pulling in more experienced ones instead. The explanation the researchers land on is pretty intuitive once you say it out loud. Training someone remotely is genuinely harder. New employees learn by watching people, picking up on informal conversations, getting quick feedback when something goes sideways. A video call is a poor substitute for sitting next to someone who actually knows what they're doing. This is where it gets a little uncomfortable, because the narrative in a lot of boardrooms right now is that AI is replacing junior workers. CEOs aren't just talking about AI. They are using it to explain layoffs. Major companies are increasingly blaming job cuts on AI efficiencies and the need to free up cash for billion-dollar AI investments. But the New York Fed data suggests the unemployment situation for young graduates started deteriorating before ChatGPT was even a product most people had heard of. When the researchers looked at how exposed different occupations were to AI tools specifically, they found little evidence it was moving the needle on youth unemployment. Meanwhile, there's a real tension building between what young workers want. A 2025 Gallup survey found that only 6% of Gen Z workers wanted fully office-based work. 71% said they wanted some kind of hybrid setup. That preference makes sense on its face. Flexibility matters. Commuting is miserable, and younger workers have grown up expecting some degree of control over where and how they work. You've got graduates who want flexibility, companies that want them back in the office, and a job market that's quietly moved on. While everyone was busy talking about AI, the result? Your postcode may matter more than your prompt skills. For many new graduates, being far from the office could be hurting their chances more than any language model ever could, at least for now.
A major way that the Trump administration paid for the president's priorities in the One Big Beautiful bill last year was by cutting funding for Medicaid, specifically by requiring people to work or prove that they cannot work in order to receive coverage. This week, federal health officials released a document outlining the details of how that will function. And NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin is here to explain. Hi, Selena.
Hi, Elsa.
Okay, let's start with the basics. Who exactly is affected by this?
Yeah, so Medicaid is a public health plan for low-income people. Its funding is split between the federal government and states, and it's really big. 68 million people across the country are currently enrolled. This new rule applies in the more than 40 states that expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. And it used to be that if you were under the income threshold, you could enroll in Medicaid and basically have free health insurance. When this takes effect in those expansion states, people as young as 19 and as old as 64 will have to prove to their state that they are working or medically unable to work every 6 months. If they can't do that, they'll lose their health coverage. Here's Dr. Mehmet Oz, administrator of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, defending the policy to reporters today at the White House.
If you're sitting at home, which is true for the millions of people who are able-bodied on Medicaid, on average, you're spending 6.1 hours watching television or just hanging around. That's not why you're here. So as a path to prosperity, Congress very wisely said, let's get you back into the workforce.
I should say research shows that most people on Medicaid who can work do work because you can't really live off of health coverage, which is why some advocates have called these rules paperwork requirements.
Okay, so you have been looking at the rule that Oz's agency released this week explaining the details of how all of this will operate. What exactly does this document say?
Well, it is very complicated. It's nearly 400 pages long.
Wow.
And the timeline states have to take a look at this and get completely new systems up and running is by January. That's really challenging, according to Adriana McIntyre of the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health.
It takes states literally months, usually years, to make the types of changes to their systems that they needed to make for this new rule.
That is not all, though. What was in this document makes the challenge for states even more difficult. So for months, federal health officials have been meeting with states informally and giving them guidance. And states understood that people with conditions where continuous coverage was really important would be exempt.
What the rule says is that the disease needs to be actively interfering with your ability to work. So people with early stage cancer who are in radiation treatment but still have the capacity to work, or people who have HIV but can still technically work, are not exempted.
Wow. Okay, well then what's been the reaction so far to the rule?
Well, there is one conservative group, the Paragon Health Institute, that wrote in a statement the rule, quote, strikes the appropriate balance between necessary program integrity protections and accommodations for those who genuinely need assistance. Advocates for patients pretty uniformly panned the rule. Here's Carl Schmid, executive director of the HIV and Hepatitis Policy Institute, who has been lobbying for months for people living with HIV to have a blanket exemption to no avail.
We're just going to lose people to Medicaid, and then they're going to get sick, and then they're going to die. And so, yeah, I'm upset.
He says they're not going to give up. They're going to file a comment and start lobbying state to state to try to get exemptions. And he thinks there will be lawsuits filed as well.
That is NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin. Thank you so much, Selena.
You're welcome.
He lost his life on the job in a sudden and tragic workplace accident.
Cody Stelzer. His family learned the news from a coworker saying that he was moving a boat when it fell on top of him. It all happened Thursday at Center Point Marine in Milwaukee. Nick Bohr is joining us live there. And Nick, you sat down with Stelzel's family today?
Right, and it was a somber scene here yesterday as his family got the news and came down here to investigate and looking for answers. Now they say they're just trying to figure out how such a vibrant life could be ended so quickly and so needlessly. Milwaukee police called to Center Point Marine on Water Street Thursday afternoon after a worker was crushed by a boat. A coworker reached out to the brother of 24-year-old Cody Stelzel of Menominee Falls.
He said that he doesn't know what to say, but Cody's dead. And he got smushed by a pontoon, and he just kept on saying over and over, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do, he's dead.
Logan Reinke had to share the horrible news with his parents.
I wasn't comprehending what he was saying. Like, I felt there's no way my son is gone.
They rushed to the scene, and police confirmed Cody had died while moving a boat on land.
He was on the boat shifted on the forklift, so whatever it was,
Cody either fell or whatever happened, he fell off the boat and then the boat came down on top of him. And that's pretty much what they had told us.
Today, the family's remembering the 2020 Menominee Falls High School grad. What do you like to do?
Hunt, race cars, now fix the diesel boats. Yeah. Always had his hands in cars.
Someone who loved his job and would drop everything to help friends and family.
He lived life to the fullest.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it all the time, right? But he truthfully did, because he would say, I can die tomorrow, so I'm going to make sure that I'm doing this today. And yeah, unfortunately, that's what happened.
Such a tragedy, Nick. Cody's parents said that they want a thorough investigation into exactly how this could have happened.
Right. They say they got the basics, but certainly want more information about how this could have happened. As you say, certainly there are regulations in place that should prevent that from happening. We did confirm with OSHA that they are investigating, but it could take 6 months, they say, for a report. I also checked with Centerpoint Marine as well. I did not hear back from them today.
All right. Nick Bohr reporting live in Milwaukee for us today at 6.
Let me say something that gets to the very crux of the matter, and this may be offensive for some to hear who are not on the side that we're on. White people, we have been the problem for 400 years. Say that again. Let me say it one more time for those of you who didn't hear me. White people, we have been the problem for 400 years.
This factory behind me here is named in a 24-page lawsuit that claims racism, workplace violence, and more. This lawsuit was filed back on March 16th by a former maintenance mechanic with Tyson named Alvin Clark. According to the lawsuit, these incidents started when Clark tried to apply for an HVAC job. When Clark expressed interest in this promotion, his supervisor allegedly tried to talk him out of it, using reasons ranging from his age to his race, at one point allegedly calling him a slur. Now, after Clark was allegedly passed over for these promotions and continually called slurs, he says he tried to go to HR. But according to the lawsuit, this just escalated tensions. In the lawsuit, Clark alleges his supervisors started threatening him, at times pulling guns and knives on him, hanging nooses around the office, and even threatening to rape and castrate him. According to the suit, after a co-worker started trying to defend Clark, a supervisor pulled a loaded gun on Clark and his co-worker and tried to shoot them before his gun jammed. On another occasion, Clark was allegedly sprayed in the face with chemicals. Leadership also allegedly made Clark and this co-worker work unsafe jobs. And despite Clark and his co-worker reporting these incidents to Tyson HR, the company allegedly didn't take any action. According to the lawsuit, this all led to Clark losing his job. I reached out to Clark's attorney and received a statement reading, "What happened to Mr. Clark is something that should only be found in history books. For those thinking there is no way it happened, witnesses have verified many of the events. Hopefully, Mr. Clark's case will help make sure history doesn't repeat again." I also contacted Tyson Foods for a comment and received a response reading, "Tyson Foods takes any allegation involving team member safety seriously. We have zero tolerance for racism, harassment, or retaliation in our workplace and are committed to fostering a respectful environment for our team members. We categorically deny these allegations and will address them through the appropriate legal process." And according to the lawsuit, those supervisors who are allegedly involved in these incidents are still employed by Tyson Foods. In Ringgold, I'm Ethan Ellis, 10 News, working for you.
Oh no, They put the drumstick on the grill for Memorial Day and get the old chicken thigh, throw that out there, gotta grill it up and barbecue it for summertime. I don't know, I have to think twice. Tyson, don't they make the chicken nuggets too? Tyson? Context of white supremacy. On 1 hour early and on a Wednesday, I can't stress enough for people who hear the archives or listen live, our normal broadcast time for Neutralizing Workplace Racism is Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That is generally, unless something kooky happens, or Gus T makes an error. That was kind of the main thing that took place this week. I guess you can, I don't know, chalk it up to spring weather, calendar change and all that. And I got confused and somehow scheduled a white guest for Thursday as opposed to Wednesday. So, little switcheroo. If you tune in tomorrow, Thursday, June 4, thinking we'll be doing Neutralizing Workplace Racism, you will hear our white guest in that time slot. So just a 1 week thing, not a next week we'll be back. Normal time, just a 1 week. Gus got confused in my invite and did not recognize it until it was way too late. So, oh well, here we are. Any hoodles. Other than that, same business as usual, not for spectators particularly. You have figured out a way. Man, for Mr. Clark at the Tyson Chicken Factory in Virginia, if you have figured out successful counter-racist codification for your workplace so that every day you arrive on your job, you have 10 fingers, 10 toes, all of your testicles, genitalia. When you leave, you still have 10 fingers, 10 toes, all of your testicles. That is a win. Now they want to talk about progress in 2026. I didn't get castrated. Not even I didn't get fired. I didn't get castrated. Whew. It's a good Wednesday. I don't want no more chicken nuggets for a while. They do the McChicken, you think, Tyson? You think they do the McChickens too and all that? Proud vegan. Gus T. Anywho, not for spectators. So if you figured out how to not be, maybe even you figured out a way to avoid being threatened with castration on your job to begin with. They don't do none of that. They don't pull no pistol out on you and threaten you. They don't call you uppity just because you thought about or talked about or dreamed about getting a promotion. They don't do none of that. In fact, hey, they might help you out, much less give you the promotion. But at minimum, we're not going to talk about chopping off your genitalia or pulling out no firearms just because an idea popped into your head. Oh man, you got an opening for a new position. Maybe I'll think about that. If that's allowed in your workplace, you figured out how to diffuse that sort of threats against you for being a, I don't know, motivated Negro. If you figured out any strategies, please, for Mr. Alvin Clark, please share. Has anybody else been threatened with castration on a job? That would be one like, but we've been here for some years, right? I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, hey, you do that again, you show up late again, get shiftless on your shift again. You see them scissors over there? Lots of things can be chopped here, Leroy. Shape up, man. Shape up. I have never heard that. Now, I will say, that right there, pitiful illustration of when I've said for years, hey, I get it. It is not no glorious thing. That ain't one to put your chest out. I don't think Mr. Clark, that was his black and proud moment to stick his chest out and say, hey, look here, cousins. They didn't threaten to cut off my testicles in the workplace. That ain't exactly one to boast about. I don't feel black and proud on that one. In fact, that's kind of scary. Like, wow. That's what I mean. Like, it's a lot of the things that racists do to us on the job area of labor. Man, it is designed to be humiliating, and that's so plantational, all of it really, but that's what it's designed to be. And to have us supposed to be, we feel embarrassed or ashamed, humiliated. I don't even, and even who would you even want to tell that to? I mean, you want to go home and talk to your children about that? Even though I do say, yes, you should talk to your children about that. Now, I'm not saying you need to tell your 4-year-old that immediately, tell your 6-year-old that immediately. I would definitely say 17, 16, you could be age appropriate, but I mean, hey, at that age, these folks are beginning their career. Same thing could be said to them. That way, and two, that way, your offspring have a better understanding of who is this person. Like, oh, wow, I can't believe that. Dad had to go through all that. Mom had to go through all that. We might have to go through all that. Wow. They were going to castrate our dad. Like, wow. I'm going to go clean up my room tonight. I don't want him to feel like, wow, do the little things that I can. Like, wow, I can't believe that. Yes, we should. And even I think that sort of sharing, it would help us grasp what does it mean to be white and how widespread this sort of conduct is. Because I don't think this is just some, what? That happened to you, Mr. Clark? What? And they said it was witnesses, right? What? They must be really tripping in Virginia. I don't believe that. I think this is indicative of what it means to be classified as white. But we'll revisit. If we've got any folks listening, if you've been threatened with castration on your job, genital mutilation as it were, let us know. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. Certainly, if you feel some type of way about sharing about threats to separate you from your genitalia, and you would like to remain anonymous, unidentified, I understand. You can share anonymously, and I would be happy. Well, I'm happy, but I will do my best to read correctly and share if you'd rather report that way. untiljustice@gmail.com. Reports that we heard that did not involve castration to start with. We heard that was just today and minutes ago. President Trump, they, I guess, are reclassifying some of the federal employees where they are at will hires, meaning they can be fired. You don't get to keep this old cushy federal job and the benefits and all that. No way. If you aren't doing the correct thing, or you're on some DEI or whatever it is, or even we have a new administration and new policies, whatever the reasoning, you can be fired. Deuces. That's another one I would think, particularly with the last 2 years or so, to increasingly have an environment where non-white people in particular feel extraordinary insecurity and fear. Oh my gosh, I have zero stability with regards to labor. If it's not the bots, they're going to accuse me of DEI. or we get a new presidential administration and they doge me on out of here, or whatever the justification, man, I'm about to be fired. Which really, the great Bay Area mom told us years ago, I think at this point, hey, before all this stuff happened, before we got to the AI and before Trump got back in office second time around, before all this stuff took place, she said, genius, she said, hey, you could be fired, any of us, me, you, all of us, you could be fired in the next 5 seconds for no reason at all. You didn't do anything incorrectly. You've been performing your job well. Maybe you might, in fact, you might be the best employee in the building. Your services are no longer needed. Deuces. And that's exactly what the president just said. At will. And we saw that. We've seen that over the last couple of years, increasingly so, and for whatever reason. So I can, that's another reason why I would really be honest with your offspring. This is what the system of white supremacy is, and particularly in labor, so that they are not confused about what all of this is, what to expect, and even so that we do not put this pressure on ourselves and thinking that it's something defective or deficient about me. I didn't do the correct thing. No way. It could just be, hey, Elon and them are in power and they say, we cutting about 1 million jobs and we're going to look for all the dark people because my homies in South Africa and here, they've been victims. Y'all been bullying them. So we're going to get rid of all you dark federal employees. Your services are no longer needed. That sort of thing can happen easily. They have another presidential election, right? We'll be coming up on that 2028, right? Who knows? Somebody, different white person gets elected in, same thing could happen. Got to be honest about that. And that's another reason Mr. Fuller was a massive advocate, not doing a whole lot of reckless spending, not doing a lot of reckless consumption. Really, hey, miserly, squirreling those nickels away as best we can, because we could be fired any minute. Then even if you are employed, they do the shutdown and pause your payment where you are working, and so, well, we'll get around to paying you once the shutdown is done. How long is that going to last? And then they have those total instability in the workplace, and that's a big part of the system of white supremacy. Again, I said I got Mr. Fuller's employee records, Bureau of Engraving and Printing, federal employee. In fact, he would have been the type person, hey, got this old rowdy book, compensatory and code and all that, and talking about maximum emergency and all that. Look here, Fuller, your services are no longer needed. We don't even print pennies no more, so we don't even need your services. Get on out of here. Get on out of here. Easily, and I bet Fuller would have expected that. Anyway, be honest about the system and that any of us can be let go. I used to say that even about President Obama when he was in office. The next report about the lack of visas to help out the crawfish industry in Louisiana. Is that 2 times for being vegan? I don't care about the chicken and I don't care about the crawfish. Either way. And they talk, they didn't really say these immigrants that are coming over to get all these crawfish and messing up the industry, and we might have to go and import the crawfish from wherever else. They didn't say it, but to me it seemed strongly that the immigrants that are coming in that are going to do this tough labor to get these old crawfish are dark people, non-white people. Now, proud vegan. I don't eat no crawfish, and even before I went vegan, I didn't really do no crawfish. I didn't grow up. I've been to New Orleans, I've been to Louisiana a couple times, but I don't do no crawfish. I mean, come on. But I said, man, is that like difficult labor to go out and get these crawfish? Everybody can go to town on that down in New Orleans, the crawfish boils and po' boys and all the rest of it. So I looked, this is what I got doing my little searching. So it says commercial crawfish farmers and fishermen harvesting is an exhausting multi-month grind. In fact, trapping and labor account for more than half of a farm's total production expenses. Physically taxing movements. Workers must constantly engage in repetitive, strenuous motions, including lifting up to 70 pounds, heavy sacks of crawfish and bait, continuous bending, kneeling, stooping, and reaching to grab traps. Ponds are harvested 40 to 90 days per season. Every single day, workers must manually pull up wire traps, dump the wriggling crawfish onto a sortable table, rebait the trap, often with slimy fish heads or compressed pellets, and drop it back into the mud. The work takes place entirely outdoors. Farmers endure Louisiana's hot, humid climates, freezing morning winter temperatures, rainy downpours, and thick mud. Now I will stop there now. Does that sound like appealing work to any of you all? Even on a seasonal basis for, a month, 2 months at a time. I know as a vegan, you lost me, like, my God, that crawfish really. I mean, what? Do what? I'm good. But anyway, after I looked at it, I'm pretty sure it's a lot of dark people that they say, oh no, I'm not finna do all that. Get hot down in Louisiana too. I'm not doing all that. Y'all get the hurricanes too. So they didn't get no visas, and they said it's messing up their industry. They said it's a black eye for the industry metaphor. And then when they were speaking with some of the folks in Louisiana who were upset about this, saying, man, they supposed to be looking out for us and make sure we got enough dark laborers, I suspect. He said, we got these old keyboard cowboys online talking about these folks are stealing our jobs. That's another one where I said, definitely these are dark people that they think or expect to get out there in the hot, muggy weather and mud and sift through to get these crawfish. Like, that's what this is. And I said, and he didn't say racist. Keyboard cowboys complaining about stealing our jobs. Now, again, how many white people do you know? Oh, yeah. Give me a bucket or whatever you need, and I'm going to get out there in the 95, 100-degree Louisiana heat and sift through that mud and get these crawfish. How many white people you got lined up to do that, like, right now, and to do that reliably for months at a time? And now, the other part about this, now, when you get these old dark people, see, you don't pay them. I'm doing this deliberately. I'm doing this deliberately. So you get these old dark people, especially you get the ones that don't have a green card, and you say you're going to call the ICE people on them. You don't pay these people fairly. You get a whole bunch of people classified as white. I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to compensate them at the same rate that you compensate what I suspect is a bunch of dark people that you got doing this work now. That ain't going to work either. So, I mean, no, come on, call it what it is. Racism, white supremacy, and it's I bet whoever this is making these sort of comments that these folks coming over here stealing our jobs doing the crawfishing, do you want to get out here and pick through the mud and get the crawfish? Speak up. Okay. Get back on the keyboard. Matter of fact, get off the keyboard. Shut up. If you're not going to get out here and do no crawfishing, don't get on there and do no keyboard. Practicing racism, lying. Let's see. The segment about Gen Z, they say they're not doing no crawfishing. They are going on social media to go viral to see if that can spark interest from a potential employer to get a job. Now, I would need to see the examples of the people who are doing this. It would be challenging for me to see, like, a black person, black male, black female, really at any age, them doing some sort of YouTube video, TikTok, anything, social media, where, and I mean, they could be looking professional, whatever their field is, and they talk about themselves and blah, 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 and all that. It is very difficult for me to imagine that that would be a viable strategy for a lot of people classified as black. Like, in particular, like what type of job in particular? Like serious jobs, serious work? I don't see it. I don't. Now, if people, younger folks in particular, if they are having success with this, maybe they can share more details. Maybe entertainment might be about the only thing I could think of. Maybe entertainment. But once you start veering out of Area 8, excuse me, that's not Area 8. Pardon. Get crisscrossed. My bad. Not talking about sex. Entertainment. Area 3, is that? Thank you. Anyway. But yeah, I don't know. If we have any C.O.W.S listeners, like, you know, you went and you put your TikTok video up and kind of detailed your skills and your academic pedigree and what you can do for a company, and you got, and even forget the job, even if you got interview invites, what? Impressive. Like, share. Let us drop an email, untiljustice@gmail.com. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564-943#. Press star 6 you know, put some content on YouTube or wherever else, and a potential employer saw your video, asked to, you know, you come in, have a sit down. Maybe we can have a coffee and see if we can make room for you at such and such. Wow. Let us know. And what did you include in the video? Super curious. Let's see. The second report about Gen Z and difficulties that they're encountering trying to get hired. The second report suggesting that it is not the AI, but rather from 2020, at the beginning of the Rona, all of the work from home, saying that employers, we would rather hire people who already have experience doing this work. So if they're not going to be here, we don't have to go through as much training. They already know what needs to be done, as opposed to people who do not have experience. They'll be working remotely, and they won't be able to as easily observe or have someone kind of you could literally have someone hold your hand if we were in the office. It's not quite the same if we're working remotely. I guess I could see, I'm not sure if that is the complete picture in terms of why it has become increasingly difficult for younger employees starting out their career to be hired, but I guess that could be I guess I'll pause there. I guess I have some resistance, because it seems to me we've been in a good year or so, at least, of the resisting work from home. At least a good year or so of, okay, we're done with all that. They, like locally here in the Seattle area, they've had lots of those, hey, got to be back 5 days a week, and we're done with all that stuff, and we're not doing exemptions, got to come back in. Being able to be seen in person is important. We've played reports that's beyond Seattle. So at least to me, I know there are lots of people who are still working from home, but at least over the last year, maybe even a little bit more, there's been more of a return to in-person 5 days a week. Everybody is not just going to be allowed to be hanging out. In fact, most people are going to be expected to be here in the office, and maybe even here 5 days a week, not no hybrid, maybe day off, increasing expectation of being here. So I'm a little hesitant on that one, because I just say if it had been consistent, it's 2026 and there's still firm, lots of folks working from home, that's still very much a viable option starting out your career, that you could be home 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. And I just don't think that, I've heard you all have talked about it where they have increasingly pushed back on that, and you got to be here in person and all the rest of it. So whatever. Anyway, but that's one that they've given. It's a little bit more difficult to train people remotely, new people. The section about again, President Trump, and now they have these work requirements for Medicaid, the 40 states where they expanded access to Medicaid. That's one, and particularly because they already have data, they being the smart white people, that, and I mean, it is really precise, like, whew, extraordinarily precise in terms of the data points. When you cross a certain threshold, and I mean, it was down to like the 10th, 100th decimal place. When you cross a certain percentile in terms of population of black people specifically in whatever the geographic location, oh man, you get much more draconian policies with regards to, can you access Medicaid? Can you access SNAP? Any sort of benefits that would be constructive and helpful for people who need the most help. The more dark people that you have in the area, oh man, anything. You forgot to dot your I, put the whole application in the shredder, and you might be subject to criminal persecution. Whereas if it's fewer dark people, and it was specifically black people, fewer of them, way less punitive policies. You forgot to dot your I, no problem, we'll do it for you. You forgot to hand in the application, we'll give you a 30-day extension. That sort of thing. Way less punitive policy. Heck, we're supposed to be helping the people who need the most help, provided there ain't no dark people here. They already had reports on that, so I already knew, like, when you have something like this now, and they said this kind of amounts to paperwork because you can't live off of Medicaid. They don't send you a check. If they do, I need to sign up for that like today. But I don't think they send you like a check in the mail because you are on Medicaid. I think they just cover, certain medical expenses. And I don't even think it's like you can just go and get anything you want, get plastic surgery and new boobies and what they got, the Brazilian butt. I don't think it's like that now. But I think they do cover some, medical stuff, kind of make sure you don't die, keel over if you ate too many Cheetos type of a thing. But if you have it so that you have to fill out this paperwork or do whatever every 6 months, I think they said, and if you don't, you done lost your benefit. This could, and you know who this is going to end up impacting? People who can't read. People who read poorly. People who might have difficulty accessing their mail. People who may, for whatever reason, forget, 6 months, have to go ahead and fill out my paperwork, show why I can't, do all the work, blah, blah, blah. That sort of, who would be in those categories? Usual suspects, although not the normal answer that we have for that one, but the usual suspects would be in that group when we're talking about people who need the most help. And in this case, the penalty is you lose your medical coverage. You can't get that Brazilian butt lift now. Then you got to go and do all that paperwork to see if you can get your benefits back. Maybe you missed some of your medical services in that time period. Maybe you don't. Maybe you die in that time period. Maybe you don't. All by design. And that's what I said before, kind of keep people in a state of anxiety. Like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my medical benefits. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my life. Just to have you in that constant state of anxiety. That ain't mental health, which is exactly what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said. The report, Cody Stelzel, it's Stelzel. Now this is a racist suspect, white man in Milwaukee, 24, but it was a workplace accident. In fact, I even can pause here. They did have video, so I got to see Mr. Stelzel, but they said he was from the great Menominee Falls. Old Gus T was in Milwaukee this time last year. I didn't make it to Menominee Falls. Menominee Falls population, a teaspoon over 40,000 people, 83% white. 3.6% black, according to the U.S. Census. And the important thing, all these areas, as I've emphasized for about a year now, all of these areas that are on the perimeter of Milwaukee proper, Milwaukee has boodles of black people. And in fact, it doesn't just have a lot of black people. Black people represent the largest racial group in the city of Milwaukee. So you go from being in a super black populated area to literally crossing the street, going 5 miles down the road, and boop, 3.6% black people. I said it's almost like they have a force field up around Milwaukee for the Negroes. Like, oh, you are just contained here. You had better not step 1 foot. We will get Jeff Dahmer and chomp all of this. Get back over there. They don't let you hang out in Menominee Falls and all the other. Even West Alice. I get my Jeff Dahmer. Even West Alice. Racially restricted region. That's where Jeff's grandmother lived at. Anyway, but old Cody Stelzel died in the workplace. They call it the workplace accident because the boat fell on top of him. OSHA's supposed to be investigating. Man, that is exactly what I talk about. Safety first. I said that at the very beginning. I said, man, you go to work, we go to a job. They put us in these old grueling jobs. Get out there in the mud and get all them crawfish and 80 pounds and break your back and get a heat stroke being out there in 100-degree heat, that sort of thing. And don't give you no water. They do that sort of thing all the time, all over the world. This just happened to be a white person, but the system of white supremacy racism is not safe. I've said, I think now I can say, I've said for at least about a year now, in the workplace, your act of counter-racism might be a safety issue. It might be, it could be you are working at the boat facility, and you're supposed to be moving these boats and putting them over there, whatever, and they don't have proper safety procedures in place. That's the sort of thing that I talk about. You have to be willing to speak up, say something. And this is one of those. Now, we'll take Mr. Stelzel. So if prior to this accident, fatal, if you see, we're not following proper procedure, I haven't been trained correctly on how to move these boats in a safe manner so that no one dies, most importantly myself, if these things have not been done properly, would it be better to say something, maybe get fired, maybe get yelled at, cursed, verbal reprimand, whatever could happen there, including getting fired, as I said? Would it be better to do that or say nothing, boat fall on me? Maybe boat fall on me, I don't die. I break my arm. I got to go through physical therapy for a year. Which would you rather do? Physical therapy is expensive, right? Might even be, I said, break your arm. Could be your dominant hand. Ooh-wee. Yee. Maybe you get it back to normal function. Maybe you don't. Would you rather say something? Not say something. Much less fatal. They have a lot of fatal workplace accidents. Would you rather say something? Not say something. I've said, consider, hey, no job is worth your life. You may be the person to replace white supremacy with justice. You might be the person. That might be your assignment. Who knows? That might. Dr. Wells, look here. She published that book well after her 40s. Mr. Fuller published his book well after his 40s. You might have to, and gave all those lectures, both of them in their 70s and 80s. That might be the last thing you do. Hopefully you live a long life, but before you depart as a centurion, I figured it out. I did all that studying and listened to that moron Gus. There it is. Bam. Assignment solved before you enjoy your 105th birthday. Value your life. It is important. And many non-white people work jobs where our lives are not valued. And that will be articulated, expressed flagrantly in how we're treated on the job, maybe even the jobs that we are given or denied. Value your life. Anything in terms of safety protocol, something like that, whoa, this could fall on me. Speak up. Use that black self-respect. Spirit of Dr. Welsing, spirit of Dr. Welsing, spirit of Dr. Welsing. Let me get my black self-respect to speak up. My life is important. Certainly that goes for Mr. Clark. I cannot stress enough. Mr. Clark was the one in Virginia, the Tyson chicken plant, where he alleged that he was subjected to all types of racial terrorism. They were going to castrate him. I cannot. They said that he reported that to HR. That's fine and dandy. Victims guaranteed qualified. If at any time someone pulls a pistol on you in the workplace, fires a pistol at you in the workplace, threatens to fire a pistol at you in the workplace, threatens to castrate you in the workplace, and I mean, it was more, but I mean, it was, Jesus Christ, they kind of overwhelmed me with Mr. Clark. All of those incidents should be a police report. Every single one. And I mean, the firearm, I think that's kind of a 911, right? Gavin DeBecker, the gift of fear. But that's like, he said a red flag when they're talking about firearms. The firearm, you're brandishing the firearm now. You're threatening the testicle. I mean, it's so, the gift of fear. This needs to be like 5 different police reports. It is totally irrelevant. Well, not irrelevant, retract that, but HR would not be the end. In fact, I'm not even sure HR would be my recommendation for the first call. Soon as firearm has introduced, police call. This is really serious. This is the going postal and everything they talk about somebody in the workplace on a rampage. Police call immediately. The castration, all of it. And particularly, this is the same person. Oh, yeah, we're stacking report, and probably I would be moving to get a temporary protective order. Either, I don't know the ordering, like the exact dates, what was first, the castration, and all of this. I thought they said this started from, hey, HVAC position. Maybe I get a few extra nickels. Maybe I can try. Oh no. Look here, Alvin. You don't want to do no HVAC. We don't even do that. You too old. Said they started with it. You too old. We don't want no old time. You got, look at that. You got all them gray hairs and everything. We don't want no old folks doing the HVAC. Then they said they moved it. Matter of fact, you too old and you too dark. Yeah, we like the light skinned folks to do the HVAC stuff. You all dark and everything. Yeah, we put you over on the side and then we do something else. Well, it's got a few extra nickels. No, you don't need no extra nickels. Yeah, you old. What you gonna do with extra nickels, old as you are, dark as you are? You don't need no money. So that's where it started at. How we end up with, you didn't ask about the HVAC too many times. Where's my razor? What? Like, man, police report. And I'm very serious, temporary protective order. And I think you would get that, especially you have witnesses. This is repeat behavior, firearm, temporary protective order. I'm calling the police. I want to press all charges, write it up in, as precise detail as you possibly can. All of the witnesses who were there for these incidents, the exact time, the exact date, all of these would be written up. I would have copies of the police reports. Like, oh my God, none of that. All of this stuff is way beyond just the normal, Well, I guess maybe this conduct is normal. Maybe it is normal. But all of this is beyond just, oh, I need to go talk to HR. Oh, maybe there should be a verbal warning. Like, no, these are flagrant violations of the law. White people know if a black person was brandishing a firearm in the workplace. Are you serious? If a black person was talking about genital mutilation of an employee in the workplace, are you serious? Police reports, man. Write it up for your own notes and then police reports. And that might even be another one where we talk about, hey, this sort of environment has not toxic. This has become so dangerous and life-threatening. I am fearful of my life. I've been threatened with castration. He's got a firearm. You have a gun. You aim to kill someone. I mean, why am I even here? To be killed? Is this person going to go on a rant? Gavin DeBecker, the gift of fear. And I would have to check policy and procedure. I don't know. I don't eat Tyson chicken. I don't do chicken, period. But many places have policies about weapons in the workplace. Apparently, some people on certain jobs, they agree, Gavin DeBecker, like, whoa, we supposed to have a safe environment. What do you need a firearm for? We here getting chicken nuggets together. What do you need a pistol for? Exactly. So I would check that, and that would be an in advance so that I already know the policy. I'm just going back to refer, but I already know, and that's another one. I put that up there with sexual abuse. You start a new job, or even if you've been on the job for 20 years, if they have a training and you're a part of it, they have any sort of like HR refresher, and this is what's acceptable behavior on the job and what we expect in terms of proper etiquette and how you treat other coworkers or even patrons, who come in the building. Man, I would ask about sexual abuse, what's supposed to happen, comments, unwanted touching, all of that. Firearms, because now it's coming up too much, the conduct and everything. End stage white supremacy. Are firearms allowed on the premises? If you have concealed carry, what is the corporate policy about firearms in the workplace? Brandishing, all of that. And then what's supposed to happen? Who do you report this to if there's a problem? If you have a safety concern, what's supposed to happen, and get that in writing so you know in advance. You know where it's at in the manual, and then you talk to people in charge, HR, your superior, whomever it is, so that you know this is what's allowed, this is what is not acceptable, and this is what I do if that's violated. It's a shame that that's the environment that we're in, but oh yeah, man. End stage white supremacy. There seems to have been a lot of, even this would apply even if it's black people, because we've talked about black people being subject to violence in the workplace a lot too. So even if it's black people, same would apply. We get very violent with other black people in the workplace. So man, same rules. No violence. Safety is very important. Safety is very important. We're supposed to go to work, all 10 toes, all 10 fingers, and all our testicles. We get back home, I got everything I started the day out with, especially my genitalia. I cannot imagine 2026. If anybody else, anywhere in the world, I don't care if it happened, if you are in your 90s, if this happened on your first day of work all them decades ago, and you've been treated swell ever since, anybody, if you have been threatened with genital mutilation on your job, or you witnessed this happen to another black person, please share. The number 720-716-7300, the code 564943 pound. Press *61 if you would like to participate. Certainly if you have your own situation, if you have figured out some codification that works well to solve problems in the workplace, and or if you have your own situation you would like to share, see if we can have folks have a thought or two on how to solve problems without creating new problems, let us know. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. Let's see. Folks have a thought to share, observations, might be spectating and or adjusting to the early time that we have for today being on, although now we have actually coasted into our, when we'd be on anyway if we were broadcasting live, even though we are one day ahead of schedule being on for a Wednesday. We'll give folks a moment, see if they have thoughts, observations to share. I will give recognition, I'll call it. Our victim who dialed in, or I guess he wrote in, apologies, he wrote in within the last month or so, black male, where he talked about being sexually abused on the job and then terminated in a form of racist retaliation after he reported that this white male race soldier molested him in the workplace, and then this became like amusement and entertainment fodder for the other coworkers for the next few weeks or so. Hopefully you are taking good care of your mental health as best you can. I know this person had wrote in and told us that they had got counseling for it, and I mean, duh, wouldn't you have to? The mental strain of all this. But thankfully he had, got counseling for all of this to just kind of help him process what happened to him, get some strategies to help him cope with it, and then adding on top of that the double whammy of being terminated as a result of reporting what happened to him. So hopefully the therapist has been constructive and provided some tips to help you navigate this extremely stressful moment in your life. I mean, man, if therapy is going to be worthwhile, I hope you are getting the best possible assistance. And then with the legal front, because he had also told us that he had spoken with an attorney. Hopefully, I think this person had great documentation. I think this person did what I said we should do with the Alvin Clark situation in Virginia, the Tyson chicken farm, making a police report. I think he did file the police report, and I think that was a part of the racist retaliation that led to his termination. But hopefully the attorneys, his attorney, has had some great suggestions, and hopefully they'll be making some leeway. This is one of those where having to be patient, not going to be solved in a day or a week, but hopefully we'll get some updates down the road, and some updates with good information about, bam, we were able to go in court and present all of our evidence and documentation, and or maybe didn't even have to go to court. They knew what was coming, and so they settled for a massive number in advance. That would be even better. And then my humble recommendation, our caller, would be, right, it could be a book, it could be a video. Hopefully they'll give you a figure that's juicy enough. Maybe you could do like a documentary short. Every documentary doesn't have to be like, 2 hours, 3 hours. They have some documentaries that are shorter. This could be like a 30-minute workplace documentary, 20-minute workplace documentary about your experience and the impact, maybe the constructive nature of the counseling, what happened with the suit, what you would do if this situation happened again, what you would recommend to other victims of racism in the workplace to protect themselves against sexual abuse, or what to do if it happens, because it's only so much you can do, right, if you got people who are intent on being racist molesters. But documentary, right, book, lots of things. You have a website, even make a little side gig for yourself. You could even go around to workplaces and give talks about what happened to you and why it's important to take this sort of thing seriously, and safety in the workplace and not retaliating against people. And males can be victims of sexual abuse too. Just an idea, but definitely at minimum update, let us know how things proceed, and definitely sending out well wishes, hoping you are taking care of your mentals, and hopefully getting great constructive suggestions from your therapist. Let's see. There was another, make sure, they had a few other reports discussing racism in the workplace. Make sure I share that, and then we'll give folks another few minutes or so, see if they have commentary to share about the workplace, either situations from their job or suggestions for non-white people to avoid some of these workplace abuses, maybe even take a proactive step so we can prevent them from getting started to begin with. Let's see here, unless I misplaced, is that it? Let's see, is this it? Oh, that's not it. Got the wrong one. I don't know. I misplaced there were a number I didn't find. I've been looking and talking about the violence against the black people. I did look and they didn't have, thankfully, no incidents of violence against black people in the workplace over the past 7 days or so, thankfully. We'll keep an eye on that for the summertime, but there certainly has been no shortage of other types of abuse and mistreatment in the workplace. I cannot stress enough, I would not be chatting about, sharing opinions, any of that in the workplace in this environment. Even if you work with all black people, there have just been so many different reports and instances of people having flare-ups and even the Tyson chicken situation in the workplace. I don't care about any of the political races and who's going to be next mayor in LA. None of that stuff. None of that is appropriate for the workplace. You're just there to talk about the job, not the finals. You're just there to talk about the job. Nothing else. And if folks try to, what you think about them Spurs? Women going to get, hey, I don't even mind. That's like an easy one. Anything sports related, I wouldn't care if they bring up like the French Open, Wimbledon, what? I don't pay attention to no sports, whatever. I don't really pay attention to all that. So, just the workplace. It is much more difficult to get these sort of confrontations and name calling and spats when we're just talking about the job. We're not drifting off and talking into, how much money you lost on the game or whatever else, trying to be professional. You want that as a reputation for someone who is talking about this job, nothing else. I'm not talking about the shoes that I got on. I'm not talking about my vacation. I'm not talking about what we're going to do for the weekend. I'm not interested in what you're going to do for the weekend. The job. We're just talking about the job. Even with non-white employees, victims of white supremacy, get that as a reputation. I think that will serve us well. That's how we are known, as a serious person. Talk about serious things. No gossip, no foolishness, no silliness. And courteous. Serious, courteous employee. Competent too. You can put that one in too. Not funny. Not funny. Serious, courteous, competent. Love it. Let's see. Folks are still spectating. I reckon we'll give them another 10 minutes. We'll see. Folks have thoughts or so. We mixed it up a little bit, broadcasted a teaspoon earlier this week, but we'll give them a little bit, see if they have thoughts, observations on their job. As I always state now, if folks are in a workplace where you specifically are not being mistreated, they are just in your compensation and how you are treated on a daily basis, bravo. I hope it lasts forever. And invest if you think the cows is constructive. Hit the blog racism-notes.blogspot.com. racism-notes.blogspot.com. PayPal button in the top right corner. You'll see the links beneath the button for Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Huge thanks to all the folks who've invested for 17 plus years, hopefully worthy of your time and energy. The Cash App address, cash.app/$the cows. Enormous gratitude to all of the investors. You can also hit the Amazon wish list under Gus T. Renegade, linked on the blog. Enormous gratitude to all the folks who've nabbed an item over all these years. We should be back tomorrow. Now, probably take me until Friday to get my kind of self situated again, but we should be here tomorrow with our white guest. Again, I got discombobulated and thought I was scheduling a white guest for today, but he'll be here tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, back to our regular time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for Thursday. White guest on tomorrow, and then we'll be back to normal scheduling Friday. Catherine Massey Book Club, our 8th installment on Michelle Alexander's The New Jim crow all of the dishonesty, misinformation as we continue plugging along. But that'll be Friday, and then our counter-racist weekly review this Saturday. So on every day between now and Saturday, we will be back to normal time tomorrow. Again, this was just a one-time switcheroo, just because I got discombobulated with our guest and picking a date, and then one extra tidbit of counter-racist work for today, so we had to start 1 hour early, but that was all just unique circumstances for this week. We'll be back on our normal scheduling for next Thursday. Anywho, those last five, see if other folks have commentary to share. Hopefully, we do not have folks listening in where either they figured out new strategies and or they did experience or even observed some elements of racism that they're sharing, not sharing up with the rest of us. And certainly, I hope we don't have any listeners who were exposed to any form of castration threats in the workplace to yourself or another non-white person. Hopefully we don't have any of those folks listening in live or archives. Again, anybody, if you have experienced anything like that in the workplace, man, let us know. You can write an email if it's not something you feel comfortable sharing, talking about, live per se. I get it. You can drop us an email. You can be anonymous. You don't have to identify, but yeah, I suspect that some other black people in the U.S., probably other parts of the world also, but I suspect that is not a one-time thing that Mr. Clark down in Virginia, we're going to take your genitals as a result of, and it wasn't even like they were saying he was showing up to work late, or being shiftless on the job, just having some spunk, right? Like, let me see if I can get a promotion, let me see if I can do a little bit better for myself. And, that I have said that for years. When I talk about making sure that we speak honestly with our children about racism, that's one that I have pointed to specifically. I think that is massively important, that we can say, go out and do your best and be your best. And something got stuck in my throat. Go out and do your best, be your best. We can say all that. Frequently, you going out and doing your best, being your best, if you are classified as black, non-white, in a system of white supremacy racism, you are going to inspire the worst from racist man, racist woman. And we've had people who shared, victims, who talked about being on the job, same thing really as Mr. Clark, where they didn't, weren't talking about, oh man, I showed up late, they trying to fire me, or, I left early and they tried to fire me. These were black people who were trying to do the correct thing, and in many cases were working hard, competent, doing great on the job. That threatened and or bothered white people. Who is this, smart nigger in here and you know so much doing something like that? Was a problem. Many folks have testified to that, and I've said that I think for some of us, because we are confused about what it means to be white, what racism, white supremacy is, and how it works, it kind of messes us up a little bit, discombobulates us. Like, wait a minute, I'm just showing up and being competent and trying to get a raise, and I'm not talking about Louis Farrakhan or nothing crazy on the workplace like that, and oh man, it's causing all kinds of problems and this, that, and the other. That is the system of white supremacy, really what it means to be white. So I would tell your children, you do not want them ending up like Mr. Clark, and you're not understanding why are they talking about castrating me just because I was trying to get a promotion. I was trying to get a better position for myself. Why is he pulling a pistol out on me because I'm trying to get, do better for myself in the workplace? Oh, I get this is what they meant. They were telling me system of white supremacy racism. Got it. Very important. Hopefully all of us do a little bit better so that we have a better grasp of that, and really the extraordinary dangers in the workplace. Again, We have no idea. That's another one too with Mr. Clark. I said we probably don't know how many of the people that we work with are armed, whether they have a concealed carry. So I guess some people are in areas where everybody has a shotgun, on the rack in the truck or what have you. But man, how many people work in environments where one person, 5 people, 10 people actually have a firearm? That would certainly be something to think about and keep in mind for many. And again, what is our policy on this as a company? And even beyond the policy, well, it's not beyond, but yes, what is the policy? But yes, then beyond that, so if the policy is you're not supposed to have them, do they have metal detectors to enforce this? If the policy is that you're not supposed to have a firearm, does everyone abide by that policy? If the answer is yes, how do we know? Do we have metal detectors? If we don't, how do we know? Someone go and, check folks when they go to the restroom? How do we know? Do they leave it in the car? Does that count? Do you know? Can you bring it and leave, if you have a permit and everything, can you bring your firearm and leave it in your vehicle? If you drive to work, can you do that? Is that allowed? That would be something I'd want to know too, because Jesus Christ, with Mr. Clark's situation alone, they're talking about castrating me and shooting me and all the rest of it. Like, okay, he doesn't have his Glock on his hip, but his ride is right outside. The parking lot is 20 yards away. That's the sort of thing I would want to be mindful about. And I would just want to know the policy. Like what sort of environment do we work in? And just keeping that in mind also to help me stay focused on, yes, I'm probably working with race soldiers or just working with people who could be very dangerous. I'm not going to drift off into no casual conversations and talking about this, that, and the other, and anything that could drift off into conflict. We're really going to work on just being courteous about this job and not making a lot of unnecessary comments, statements. That'd be what I'm curious about as well. I guess folks, if they hear the archives, check in later. Is that something? Have people inquired about that? Are you able to have a firearm in your workplace? Are you able to have it in your car, on your job, or what have you? If you have a concealed carry permit, can you just have your firearm and be, working away at your desk, at your cubicle, and no big deal? Like, man, in this sort of environment, I would want to know. Maybe ask, folks can let us know down the road if you inquire. Didn't see, folks have any hands? Make sure I didn't miss anybody. I didn't see any hands, just making sure. Folks spectating, satisfied, at least for this Wednesday, or maybe a little just confused since we didn't do it on the normal day that we're supposed to broadcast, and a teaspoon early at that. But assume folks are satisfied for this here week, and we will do it again next. Back to normal time should be next Thursday for next week. But in the interim, we'll be here tomorrow with our white guest. If you show up on Thursday thinking it'll be Neutralizing Workplace Racism, nope. White man, looking forward to it on Thursday, and back to normal time. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Thursday. Normal time, and normal time for Friday as well for the Catherine Massey Book Club, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, the next 3 days for Saturday as well. That's it. Sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy. We need fully functioning brain computers to solve our problems, and they are immense. Creator, we ask that you remind us, stop saying not all white people are racist. Remind us, stop name calling people classified as black. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cows signing out. Back to normal time on Thursday. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim.
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.